Hello, and welcome back to Clay's 50 Film Challenge! Yeah! My name is Clay Johnson, and today I am reviewing film number 24, which is Mrs. Miniver, suggested by Diane. This is the first of 3 suggestions, so thanks for the trilogy, Diane. So this film is from 1942. It is a war drama. And it was directed by William Wyler and stars Greer Garson and Walter Pidgeon as Mr. and Mrs. Miniver. It also stars Teresa Wright, Dame May Whitty, and Henry Travers, who most people would probably know as Clarence from It's a Wonderful Life. So, like I said, this film, it's a war film from 1942. It takes place during World War II. It is an American film, but it takes place in England. It actually takes place in England from before the war from right before the beginning of the war to, I would say, probably about the middle of the Blitz. And it's a very interesting war film because it 100% shows it from the perspective of the people at home. The people who stay home that don't go off to war. I mean, there are characters in the film that go off to war, but easily the main character of the film is Mrs. Miniver, who does not go off to war, but ends up sending a lot of different people to various facets of the war, and interacts with the war in different ways. And like I said, it kind of follows them from before the war to the middle of the war, and just kind of shows the way that they kind of deal with the war. Although it was, like I said, filmed in the middle of the war, 1942, the war didn't end until 45. And there's definitely a call to, support the troops, support the war at the end. It's still like the depiction of war is not one of glorification. It 100% is, this is what war is, and this is how it affects the people who don't even enter the war, just the things that happen because other people declare war. And so it's, I mean, obviously, like I said, there was a call to support, so it was, support, let's get through the war, but it was not pro-war. It was more, let's support the war so that we can end it, because this is not something that should ever happen. And so, like, I mean, it's a very good, well-told story. One of the things that I love about this film is the fact that, like I said, they're in the middle of a war, and a lot of times in a war film, once war starts, everything is about war, and it's war, 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 and suddenly, like, the mood seems to go down, and it's like, even, like, the slight laughs they have are all tinged. But the thing is, there are various moments where, like, if you just pulled, in the middle of the film, you could pull an excerpt out of the film and show it to somebody, and they would have no idea that it has anything to do with war, because they're literally just living their lives. There's a wonderful scene between Greer Garson and Walter Pidgeon where, I mean, I'm not going to give main plot points away, but Mr. Miniver ends up going to Dunkirk, sorry. And when he comes back, they have the obvious, good to see you again, so long, blah, blah, blah. But there's a point at which um, they just banter as a married couple, and it's done so well. And like the chemistry between the two of them is just so good. Honestly, you feel like you've just been dropped into the middle of a really good romantic comedy, but these characters are also in the middle of a war, and it just adds to the fact that life doesn't end when war starts. War is taking place around these people's lives. And like I said, it's anti-war in the fact that it is showing the fact that, war does horrible things to people that have never asked for it. And so I would say, though, easily the best part of this film is Greer Garson as Mrs. Miniver. I mean, just amazing. I have to say, a couple of months ago, I was watching Turner Classic Movies, and every once in a while they, is some of their like mini commercials. They do like mini little retrospectives where they pick like one person or one film, and they just have people talk about it, blah, blah, blah. Well, I came in and they were doing like a quick little, excerpt on Greer Garson. And there was just something about her that was just so interesting, and like she communicates so much with just a look, just a touch. There's actually a scene in the film where Mr. Miniver says, "You and your looks," and it is so true. She says so much with her eyes, with just a look. And I remember when I saw them just talking about her, I was like, I really hope that one of her films is on my list. And then, of course, I find out that it's this one, which she actually won Best Actress for. And it's 100% earned. Like I said, she was mesmerizing from the word go. She is just so good, and the character of Mrs. Miniver is so well established just by her presence alone. And it was just great seeing her, in World War II, the women, aside from the ones who went to work and things like that, they couldn't necessarily take part in the war. But, she has just such courage and such strength that it's just... And I'm just going to be honest. There was a moment which just her presenting this character was so beautiful. And it wasn't a sad scene. In fact, I think it was actually the scene I talked about before between her and Walter Pidgeon, and just her strength of character was so strong that it actually made me cry. Now, I'm not saying I'm a hard person to make cry, but this is the first time that just someone, presenting a strong character just kind of brought tears to my eyes. I didn't boohoo like a baby, but it's just so good. So I am going to emphatically endorse this film. This film easily gets a 3. 3 roses is what I'm giving this one. Because, like I said, it lets normal life take place, and you'd think the most important thing about this film would be the war, and it's not. It's a backdrop for what ends up, it creates horrible situations for this family, but what the core of this film is watching this family go through the war and basically refusing to buckle to it, and continuing their normal lives through it. I mean, like I said, it takes place in England. The only thing I would say is everyone is obviously American. That's the only real criticism I can throw at the film. Other than that, it's amazing. If you have not seen this film, um, seek it out, find it. I was actually listening to a podcast this past weekend where they mentioned there are so many amazing films that people just don't talk about anymore, and this specifically was one that they named, and it's true. This is not one you hear about a lot, and it should be, because it still resonates today. So if you have not seen this film, please seek it out. Like I said, I am giving this one easily three roses. So yes, thank you very much, Diane, for this film. I will be back next time for film number 25, which is Father Goose. So thank you guys for watching. As always, feel free to leave any comments, and I will see you later.